So, the day after my mom's funeral, I get this call from the family lawyer. My dad had died a year earlier, so it was just me and my sister, Rachel. We both knew the will was going to be read soon, and even though we hadn't talked much over the years, I just assumed we'd split everything 50-50. Our parents were never rich, but the house, the car, a few investments, they worked hard for that. And they always said it was going to us equally. If you're enjoying the story so far, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Anyway, I sit down across from the lawyer, and the whole thing is weirdly cold. No greetings, no condolences, just business. Then he starts reading. And my name doesn't come up. Not once. Everything was left to Rachel. The house, hers. My dad's old classic car he was restoring, hers. The investment accounts, bank accounts, even the furniture in the damn house, all to Rachel. At first I thought it was some kind of mistake. Maybe I was reading it wrong. I actually laughed. I said, "Okay, but where's my part?" Like I was waiting for a punchline. But the lawyer just looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, but your parents amended the will before your father passed. This is the final version." I was stunned. I hadn't even known the will had been changed. So I called Rachel. Straight up, I lost it on the phone. I demanded to know what the hell happened, what she said to Mom and Dad to cut me out like that. She went quiet for a second and then goes, "They always thought you were irresponsible. You know that. I just helped them make the right decision." Helped. Like it was some kind of favor. But here's the thing. I may have partied a little in college, sure, but I had a stable job, paid my bills, never asked them for money. Meanwhile, she was the one always needing loans or moving back home. But she was clever. Always knew how to say the right thing. Manipulative in this really sweet, subtle way. Something didn't sit right. My gut told me she pulled some strings. Maybe more than that. So I started digging. I requested public records, tried to get my hands on the older version of the will. Talked to neighbors, my dad's old accountant, even the notary. It took a couple weeks, but eventually I found out that 2 years ago, right after Dad's first heart attack, Rachel suddenly started visiting every week. Bringing dinner. Helping with paperwork. And the original will? It did split things equally. But that version somehow vanished. Poof. And the new one? Witnessed by 2 of her friends, notarized by some random guy who was later fired for misconduct. It was all shady as hell. I didn't have the full picture yet, but I knew one thing. Rachel didn't just get lucky. She stole everything. And I was going to take it back, even if it took years. After I pieced together how Rachel screwed me over, I hit a wall for a while. Like, what could I even do? The will was official. The house was already in her name, and legally it looked airtight, unless I could prove fraud. And guess what? Proving someone manipulated a dying man to change his will is next to impossible without hard evidence. But giving up wasn't an option. I started small. I knew Rachel was reckless. She always was. If she was bold enough to fake a will, she'd be dumb enough to leave a trail. So first, I started watching her. Not like stalker level, but I kept tabs, social media, neighborhood gossip, even hired a cheap private investigator. And it didn't take long to find her cracks. Turns out, Rachel wasn't exactly lying low after her little jackpot. She was spending big time. New SUV, new furniture, European vacation. Posting all about it like some influencer, smiling next to bottles of $300 wine. Meanwhile, she was telling everyone she was grieving and trying to move on. Give me a break. The PI dug a little deeper and found something beautiful. The notary who signed the new will? He was fired 6 months after for forging documents at a completely different law firm. Dude had a full-on reputation for sketchy stuff. Suddenly, Rachel's clean paperwork didn't look so clean anymore. I took that info straight to a lawyer. And man, this lawyer was a beast. Like, TV show level shark. She told me we had a shot at contesting the will, if we could prove undue influence and forgery. The key word was if. It wasn't guaranteed. It would be expensive, ugly, and very, very public. But honestly, I didn't care. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about her looking me in the eye at our parents' funeral and pretending to be this grieving, broken sister while stabbing me straight in the back. It was about everything they built, their entire life savings, being turned into her damn Instagram content. The lawsuit hit her like a nuke. Rachel tried to play it cool at first, texting me like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And, "You're just trying to ruin my life because you're jealous." Typical narcissist stuff. But as soon as she realized I wasn't bluffing, and that there was real evidence, the panic set in. She even offered me a private settlement at one point. Wanted to write me a check for 10% of what she got. Like she was tossing scraps to a dog. I told her to shove it. If she wanted a war, she was gonna get one. And this was just the beginning. So the lawsuit officially kicked off, and Rachel lost her mind. First, she tried to smear me to anyone who would listen. Family friends, cousins, even people at her church. She was telling them I was a greedy loser trying to steal from my dead parents. That I'd always been the black sheep, that Mom and Dad changed the will because they knew I couldn't be trusted. And for a minute, people actually believed her. I was getting side eyes from people I grew up with. Old family friends were uninviting me from stuff. One of my uncles even called me and yelled for like 15 minutes straight about disrespecting the family. But deep down, I knew what Rachel didn't. You can only lie for so long before the cracks start to show. Depositions started, and that's when it got brutal. My lawyer dragged her into the fire. She had to sit there, under oath, and explain everything. How she helped my parents redo their will, how she magically found her own friends to witness it instead of anyone impartial, how she somehow couldn't produce any emails, texts, or even basic notes about the change of heart my parents supposedly had. And let me tell you, Rachel sucked at lying under pressure. Her story kept changing. One minute she said Mom and Dad called her to update things because they were worried about me. Next minute, she slipped and said she suggested it after Dad's first heart attack because it was just logical. My lawyer caught every inconsistency and hammered it. But the absolute bombshell? The private investigator pulled phone records showing Rachel had called that shady notary weeks before my dad even supposedly asked for a will change. Like, a whole month earlier. It was the smoking gun. When we dropped that into evidence, you could feel the whole energy shift. Rachel's lawyer started panicking, asking for recesses, trying to settle quietly before the next hearing. I refused. At this point, it wasn't just about getting my half back. It was about exposing her. About making sure every single person who watched her fake cry at the funeral knew exactly what kind of person she really was. And honestly, watching her squirm in that courtroom was the best feeling I'd had since the whole nightmare started. But it wasn't over yet. Because Rachel still had a few dirty tricks left up her sleeve. And I wasn't backing down. After that bombshell with the phone records, Rachel knew she was screwed. But in true Rachel fashion, she didn't just admit defeat. Nah. She decided to escalate. Out of nowhere, I get slapped with a countersuit. Yeah, you heard me. She sued me. Claimed I was harassing her, emotionally distressing her, and interfering with her inheritance. Her lawyer tried to argue that my lawsuit was just a revenge tactic, and she wanted damages. Like 6 figures worth. I honestly laughed when I read it. It was so obvious what she was doing. Stalling, trying to drain my bank account with legal fees, hoping I'd panic and drop everything. But my lawyer was ready. We filed a motion to dismiss immediately, and the judge scheduled a hearing. It was tense walking into that courtroom. I'm not gonna lie, there was this tiny voice in my head whispering, what if they believe her? What if you lose everything? Rachel showed up looking like she walked out of a Lifetime movie. Black dress, hair in a perfect bun, no makeup except just enough to look fragile. She even brought tissues. Like she was gonna sob at any second. And then she got on the stand. Her whole story was this wild over-the-top mess about how I stalked her, no proof. Threatened her, absolutely no proof. And ruined her emotional well-being, zero proof again. It was pathetic. My lawyer barely had to say anything. He just asked her for specific evidence. And Rachel crumbled. She didn't have text messages. No police reports. No witnesses. Nothing. At one point, she even said she felt like I was threatening her even though, technically no, he didn't say anything threatening. The judge's face was priceless. Like he couldn't believe he was wasting his afternoon with this crap. By the end of the hearing, not only did the judge dismiss her countersuit with prejudice, meaning she couldn't file it again, but he also hinted that if she pulled another stunt like that, she could be facing sanctions. You could practically hear Rachel's world cracking apart in real time. After the hearing, as I was walking out, she caught up to me. Actually tried to talk to me. She had this shaky little voice, saying, "We don't have to do this. We're family." And for a second, I swear, for a second I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the funeral. The fake tears. The forged will. The months she spent living it up while I sat there thinking our parents just didn't love me enough. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, "You made your choice, Rachel. Live with it." And I walked away. But the final hammer hadn't even fallen yet. That was coming next. And it was gonna bury her. So after the countersuit got tossed like yesterday's trash, we rolled right into the final stretch of the inheritance case. Rachel was barely hanging on at this point, emotionally, financially, reputation-wise. I could tell. She showed up to court looking like a shell of herself. No more fancy outfits or smug smiles. Just desperation. And then, the wildest thing happened. My lawyer dropped a witness list for trial, and right at the top was one of Rachel's own friends, the same friend who witnessed the fake will. Apparently, my private investigator hadn't stopped digging. He found out this friend had a falling out with Rachel a few months back over some dumb money dispute. Shocking, right? And now, she was willing to talk. And oh boy, did she talk. In her deposition, she straight up admitted that Rachel asked her to do her a favor and sign some papers for her sick dad without ever actually seeing my dad sign anything. No real witnessing. No real will signing. Just Rachel handing over a stack of papers and saying, "It's all taken care of, just sign here." It was game over. When we presented that in court, you could hear a pin drop. Rachel's face went pale. Like, horror movie pale. She tried to argue it was misremembered and taken out of context, but no one was buying it. Not after everything else. The judge didn't even need to deliberate long. He ruled in my favor across the board. The fake will. Null and void. All assets frozen and ordered back into the estate. The house, the car, the bank accounts, everything Rachel had stolen, legally stripped away. And get this. Because of the proven fraud, Rachel wasn't just losing it all. She was disqualified from inheriting anything. Anything. No house. No money. No dad's car. Nothing. The entire estate got handed to me. Every last penny. Not because I wanted it all, but because Rachel made sure there was no other choice. Oh, and the cherry on top? Rachel got referred for criminal investigation. Forging a will isn't just a civil thing. It's a crime. Felony level. As I walked out of the courthouse that day, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindication. I just felt free. Like this giant, rotting weight had finally fallen off my shoulders. Rachel thought she was smarter. Thought she could play dirty and get away with it. She forgot the one rule Mom always taught us growing up. The truth always comes out. It just takes a little time. And sometimes, a whole lot of fire.